I'm in a bit of a quandary about this film. On the one side, I can see everything that everyone would really hate about it. And on the other side, I can see everything that everyone would really like about it. So when I sat down to watch this movie in complete darkness by myself at 1 a.m., I fell asleep. And then I woke up and tried to watch it again, and then I fell asleep. And then I tried to watch it again when I woke up, and then I fell asleep. And then I watched it in full the next day. Lake Mungo is a 2008 Australian film from director Joel Anderson. It centers around the 12 months after the accidental death of Alice Palmer, a 16-year-old girl. I don't really see this movie as a horror. I see it more as a drama about grief in a mockumentary style that also deals with the paranormal. This movie encapsulates the 3 S's: sad, subtle, and somber. I just made that up. Well, 4 if you want to add sullen. Sullen would fit as well. The 4 S's. This film pulls off the mockumentary style better than most. It's probably due to the lack of script the director used in outline, and when he was asking the questions during the interview scenes, he just led the actors in a particular way. And then the actors were forced to improvise and use complete spontaneity. And it actually really comes off well this way, because sometimes you can feel that the interviewee is unsure of themselves, and then at other times they're very strong-willed and they're really bold in their answers, and other times they just don't really know how to answer. And it really comes off more as a legit documentary this way. It has a bunch of twists and turns, just like the Netflix documentary Abducted in Plain Sight. But it's not the twists and turns that make you kind of be like, why are you purposely trying to confuse me, while you're actually probably just confusing yourself? These are legit twists that make perfect sense. These twists and turns definitely keep you on your toes and fully engaged, unless it's 1 a.m. The film does a lot of things really well. I love their use of the camera footage and the photographs, and their use of the slow zoom-ins, as well as the misdirections, and the overall level of creepiness. Its somewhat slow pace is definitely slow at times, but because of this pace, they're able to really build up the tension and the suspense throughout the entirety of the film. Make no mistake, just because this isn't a horror film necessarily, it doesn't mean it's not creepy as shit. It makes you look over your shoulder late at night, just to make sure there's nothing there, even though you know there's nothing there. It makes you question why your dog is looking at the dark corner of the room. It makes you beg your dog to just fall asleep so you don't have to worry about anything. It's the type of movie that makes your mind play tricks on you. It's not going to have that same effect though if you watch it during the day. And with all that being said, I still wanted more from Lake Mungo. I'm not sure what I wanted, but it just didn't feel like enough. I was expecting to connect with it a little bit more. I was expecting to feel for the characters a little bit more. And the only one I really ended up feeling for was Laura Palmer, Twin Peaks. Alice Palmer, Lake Mungo. The connections are pretty obvious. I can't recommend this film, mostly because I know so many people would absolutely hate this film. But I know people that would love it too. I'm split worse than someone who hangs with Art the Clown. And now for a small spoiler discussion that would definitely spoil some things if you haven't seen this film. The tagline of this film is, if you've never seen a ghost before, look closer. Now this ends up being very hilarious because I knew the tagline before I started watching the movie, so naturally I looked closer. And unfortunately, I saw some things that I don't think I was necessarily supposed to see. Like the photograph where the girl is sitting to the side of the backyard, where we're directed to look towards the middle where the fake ghost is. I saw the other girl. Now, it was a little bit tough to see, and you could definitely second guess yourself and say, I think that's a girl, but I'm not positive, but it's definitely someone. And then you kind of bring yourself back and be like, well, if it's nothing and I'm second guess myself, maybe they're really trying to do that and create this sort of aura of confusion. But it's different for the old camera footage, because one of the things the director does is he sits on the footage before zooming in. And before he zooms in and misdirects you, you're so easily able to see the man who is looking for the sex tape. Now you don't know he's looking through the sex tape, but you know he's there because it's the first thing you see. There's no focal point in the camera footage, so your eyes are constantly wandering through the frame. And that's when you see him. And then finally, he does the zoom in towards the girl crossing the hallway. But the damage is already done because you've already seen that other thing. And for me, it really took me out of the film because I was wondering why they aren't discussing the man. Why aren't they talking about the guy who's in that frame? Sure, there's this other person, she's walking through the frame, but how come no mention of this one? It took me out. It broke my suspense, it broke my tension a little bit, and that was unfortunate. And then it got me wondering, was that on purpose? Is he actually really trying to show me this, but then not talk about it? Or was he hoping that we wouldn't see it and completely misdirect us and create this diversion for the reveal later on? Honestly, I think he really probably hoped that we wouldn't see it, but he didn't want to not have it in there because he didn't want to fake the footage. Regardless, it definitely did take me out of the narrative because I was constantly in my head trying to figure out what was going on. This is definitely a hard film to recommend, as I've already said, because not only is it a mockumentary found footage that a lot of people already don't like, it's also a slow burn. So a lot of people don't like slow burns. Therefore, not a lot of people will like it in my book. But it's worth seeing, it's worth knowing about. If you love horror, even though it's not horror, it's definitely worth seeing. But that's not a recommendation.